You've likely heard over and over, sales cures all. You've likely also heard that there's only 3 ways to grow a business. Get more clients, get them to buy more often, or get them to spend more each and every time that they buy. This advice is misleading and incomplete. In fact, countless entrepreneurs have followed this exact advice to grow revenue and have still ended up going bankrupt. Yes, you heard me right. It's possible for revenues to grow and grow and grow, and for your company to struggle financially more and more. In fact, there's an expression called growing broke. No, that's not a speech impediment. You heard me correctly. Growing broke. My name is Tim Francis. I've been through over 150 board meetings, and I've seen the private financials of dozens of different companies. So I see what really goes on behind the scenes. If your company is struggling financially, it most likely has an issue with one or many of the following 10 levers. A quick note before we get very deep on this: I am not a lawyer, I am not an accountant or an accredited financial professional. I highly recommend that you get the appropriate counsel from the appropriate professional before taking action on anything that you see in this video. Let's dive right in. The first lever is spending far too much on acquiring clients. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take all the revenue in your business and split it into 3 or 4 different revenue buckets. So let's say that you're a coach or consultant. Your 3 buckets might be online course sales, one-on-one consulting, group coaching, and maybe a 4th bucket for live event ticket sales. Next up, I'd like you to do a little bit of research to see how much you spend to acquire clients in each of those 4 buckets. Here's a sample of the kinds of expenses that you may want to consider. Online advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube ads, anything that is online advertising. Traditional advertising, any of the labor required to market and sell to get customers. Commissions to salespeople, affiliates and referral partners. Gifts you might be buying, dinners you might be paying for, travel that you might be doing, sponsorship fees, etc., etc. Now, I don't want you to include any expense that stays flat irrespective of how many clients you get or don't get. So for example, the cost to maintain your website. That stays exactly the same no matter how many or how few clients that you've got. I bet once you look at those 4 different buckets, you'll see that making sales in 1, maybe 2 of those buckets is extraordinarily more expensive to acquire clients than the other 2 or 3 buckets. You'll probably want to double down on getting clients from the least expensive bucket while probably cutting back on acquiring clients in the most expensive bucket. Now, I say probably because ultimately you do have to zoom out and look at your overall situation. For example, it could be that that bucket that is the most expensive to acquire clients is selling something that's incredibly inexpensive for you to fulfill. So for example, if you were spending a lot to acquire clients through online advertising, but you're selling an online course that has 0 extra cost each time you sell the course, then there might be a good reason to keep that really expensive bucket. Another reason why you might want to keep that really expensive bucket is if the front end purchase is combined with an upsell that is really, really high margin. So the classic example here is, would you like fries with that? Hamburgers typically are not all that profitable for restaurants to sell, but you know it's very, very, very high margin for them to sell? Soda, gravy, fries. A lot of those upsells are very, very, very high margin. And in a sense, the hamburger just gets the customer to the counter, but where the company really makes their money is on the upsells. This is why upselling customers is actually typically one of the best ways to generate new profit, especially when what you're upselling is very high margin. We'll get more into that a little bit later. As a quick note, I would say the single industries or 2 that I see over and over again have the most outrageous spend on acquiring clients is typically going to be online experts. Sometimes spend an absolute fortune. Sometimes they spend more than 100% of their revenue just on online advertising. Another area where this can get out of control is e-commerce. If there are Entrepreneurs selling online on Amazon or to Shopify and are spending an absolute fortune to get customers. That can be very, very difficult. And the third is sometimes online advertising for startups, where holy smokes, the ad spend can be absolutely astronomical. The internet can be a wonderful place to have a huge access to a ton of people, and there are incredible tools to target them. You gotta keep a very close eye though on what you're spending to acquire each new customer. Sometimes it's just not worth it.